All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope y'all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. Hope you guys are doing well. So, today, we fly up north to talk about the guys in purple, the Purple People Eaters, the Minnesota Vikings, and how I think they're going to take a step backward in 2025. Is it because they're going to be worse? No, not necessarily because they're worse, because now they have the growing pains of dealing with a young quarterback instead of a veteran quarterback leading the show. So let's break down what I think the Vikings are going to do in 2025. Before we jump into the discussion fully, though, I want to explain how the 2025 season preview series works. Which, by the way, this is the start of the NFC today. So the AFC is all done. So if you want to go check those out, go right ahead. It'll be in the whatchamacallit at the end of the video. There's like a little link to the playlist of all of them. But that being said, here's how the 2025 season preview series works. We're going to quickly recap 2024, what happened, what was their record, and then we'll jump into the offseason, talk about some notable news that happened with each team. Then we'll look at free agency, who each team added, who they lost. We'll look at their draft and analyze each pick. And then we'll go into the season, and pretty much I'll give you guys what I think, how I feel about each team. Is each team, are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Are they going to be mid? Are they going to be surprisers? Are they going to be worse than what people expect, right? Stuff like that. And then we'll look at some strengths and weaknesses across their roster. And then we'll break down their schedule. We'll go game by game, looking at each one, looking at the stretches of each game, and where everything lies for each team. And then we'll cap it all off with some storylines, things that I will be looking for and following with each team during the 2025 season. So now let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings, the Purple People Eaters. Last year in 2024, they went 14-3. Wow, this was another shockingly surprised team. After JJ McCarthy in the first preseason game in 2024 went down with an injury, done for the year, and people, including myself, I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, the Vikings are going to be garbage this year with Sam Darnold at quarterback. And then 14 wins later and a wild card loss after that. Wow, what a magical season that the Vikings had last year. Their offense was phenomenal. Which I say phenomenal, maybe not phenomenal, but it was very, very good. And then defensively, up front was just nasty. One of the best defensive lines in all of football last year. And it was incredible. It was incredible. Obviously, the loss in the wild card round against the Rams was unfortunate. But, I mean, they kind of had a little bit of destiny on their side with everything that had happened in California with the forest fires at the time, so they had to play in Arizona. And so there was a storyline there that's like, oh yeah, you're not going to beat the Rams in that situation. I'm sorry, you're not. Like, there's a lot of outside factors that were playing into that game. But that being said, they did end off that loss pretty horribly, and they set out this offseason to fix that problem. And the first big piece of news that the Vikings did was not even on the defensive line, an offensive line where there was issues in that particular game, but it was in the secondary, locking up their top corner, Byron Murphy. It was a 3-year, $66 million contract, one of the best slot corners in the NFL, probably the best if you want to make that argument. I'd be willing to listen to it, and he deserves it, quite frankly. He had a really good year last year, probably the best year of his career. I would say, yeah, he probably had the best year of his career last year, so give him a big contract, make him a high-paid corner. Fantastic. He needs to stay because the Vikings secondary, their corner group in particular, is not super duper enticing, but there is a couple other things to like, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But going into their free agency, they have went out to do two things: bolster each front, and that is where they spent the most of their money. Looking at the offensive side, the two big names right there on the bottom, Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, guard and center, both coming from the Indianapolis Colts, gave him big contracts to come in. One thing that the Vikings saw last year was their interior offensive line. Was it bad? No. But when the playoffs rolled around, were they good? No. The Rams bullied them and utterly dominated them. And so they went out and were like, no, that's not happening again. We're trying to be better than last year. And so they went out, got two good offensive linemen to help build that interior. And I can't say they went out and completely revamped it, which we'll talk about Donovan Jackson in a second. But I thought they did a really good job. They got better at every single position on the interior. Both guards are better. Their center, I think, is better. And that's all that you want. You still have Christian Darrisaw on the left side at left tackle. And that's an offensive line that I can get behind. That I think that can be pretty darn good this year. And so to see them invest in that, especially with the young quarterback in JJ McCarthy, very, very much appreciated. And you got a couple other guys there at wide receiver and tackle, fullback to provide some depth. But overall, their offensive side was highlighted by these two offensive linemen, and for good reason. And then on the defensive side, on the other side of your screen, same thing. You look at Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave to help shore up that defensive line, along with Harrison Phillips, who's still there, their big run-stuffing defensive tackle. But Jonathan Allen, kind of surprised that he got cut by the Washington Commanders. I know that there was some, earlier this offseason, they were trying to get some work done on a new contract or rework the contract. It was a contract issue. I don't fully remember what the issue specifically was about, but it was going down, and then all of a sudden he was cut, and then the Vikings swooped in and immediately got him. And I'm like, okay, that's a good pickup. Jonathan Allen is a really good defensive tackle. And then Javon Hargrave right next to him has not been as good or productive since he left the Philadelphia Eagles, I think in 2023. In the 2022 offseason going to 2023 is when he left. I think he signed a big deal with the 49ers, I'm pretty sure, right? And only played out like a 1 year of that before he got cut. Then went like one other place before the Vikings. I just don't remember. But the thing was, Javon Hargrave, when he was on Philly's roster, was really good, and that's because they had a stacked defensive line. The Vikings also have a stacked defensive line, so I expect Javon Hargrave to play pretty good. At least he's got a lot of experience, so he should be at least decent. So I really like these two signings. They're being serious about bolstering their trenches, like I said, and that is why they spent the most money here, because it is important to them, and especially to JJ McCarthy, that his lines are really, really good. And then you also bring in corner Isaiah Rodgers to be your second starting corner, your number one outside corner. He was in Philly for a while, and while he was a fourth string, kind of like that, that first depth piece, when he was on the field, people thought he played pretty well. I went back and looked at some of his highlights, played pretty well, and so he's got the opportunity to start now in Minnesota, and with the pieces that they have up front, should help him do pretty well and maybe step into a bigger role this year and kind of evolve and develop, I guess, if you will. And so it's interesting. I'm excited to see what he does. I'm hopeful that he takes the most advantage of his opportunity. So we'll have to see. And then Jeff Okudah is a name that's notable. Obviously, we know about Jeff Okudah. Most people do, at least. If you don't know, former third overall pick in Detroit, absolute bust. I'm sorry. He was a massive bust. But as a depth piece, he's been pretty good. So adding more depth is important. The Vikings also lost a lot of corners in free agency. And so this makes sense to add him here. And they also didn't add it here on the list. On the offensive side, we'll jump back for a second. They also brought in running back Jordan Mason, which Jordan Mason, after Christian McCaffrey didn't start the year healthy, was going nuts. He would lead the league in rushing throughout the first 3 or 4 weeks, I'm pretty sure, if not top 3. So getting a guy like that as a backup, fantastic to go behind Aaron Jones. This running game should be better this year because of that, because there's 2 guys that can take a significant workload, and it's not going to be all on Aaron Jones, and then you give Cam Akers 20% of the carries, which one of the big notable losses on the offensive side of the ball was Cam Akers, but the biggest one is Sam Darnold, the guy that went in there, and when everything was all doom and gloom in Minnesota, because he was the starter, he went in there, balled the heck out. Not only did he ball the heck out, this team rallied around him. They loved him. They supported him 100% the whole way. You could see it. And he had the best year of his career. Now he's the starter in Seattle. So he's revived his career in Minnesota. So congratulations for Sam. But for Minnesota, this is tricky because it looked like they wanted to keep him. But the money that you would have had to pay to keep Sam Darnold around while you have JJ McCarthy, you need to play JJ McCarthy. You drafted him in the first round, either 10th or 9th overall or 11th overall. One of those 3 spots, I don't remember, but that's still a high first round pick. So you have to play him. You spent a high pick on him. You got to play him at this point. And Sam Darnold, obviously not going to be in the NFL for, I don't want to say much, much longer, but compared to JJ McCarthy and how long he could be in the league, obviously you want to go with the younger guy and the guy that you invested a lot of capital in. So it stinks because Sam Darnold played really well, and it seemed like they tried to bring him back. They wanted to bring him back, but he wants to go be a starter somewhere else, so that's his prerogative. More power to him. And then a couple guys on the offensive line left. Garrett Bradbury is the big one. He was their starting center for a while for the past 5-ish years. I think he was drafted in 2019. Is that right? I'm pretty sure he was drafted in 2019. If I'm wrong, Vikings fans correct me in the comments. But he's been a starter forever. Does it stink that he's gone? Yes, but I think they got an upgrade over Ryan Kelly. So there's not really much I can say. It's an upgrade. So losing Garrett Bradbury stinks. He was a good player, but I think Ryan Kelly's a little bit better, and there's an upgrade. You got to take it. And so on the defensive side, they didn't really do lose a whole lot other than their Cam Bynum at the bottom. Stephon Gilmore should also be on this list as well. I think Stephon Gilmore, is he still in the league? Did he retire? No, he did not retire. I think he's still in the league somewhere. I can't remember where he went. But Cam Bynum is the guy that they lost. He had a really good year last year, ended up getting a big contract with the Colts, which there's a lot of Colts parallels here between them and the Vikings. Wow, I did not really think about that till this very moment. But Cam Bynum was fantastic last year, got his big contract, and so now there's a hole at safety with the guy that's supposed to take his place. Let me look up his name for a second because I have the depth chart here, I think. I actually do not. I'm sorry. I will have it up here in just a moment once the time calls for it. So, that being said, they lost him. That sucks. But there's some other guys they lost, like Jerry Tillery, Jonathan Bullard, Shaquille Griffin. Shaquille Griffin was a starter, but he was okay. But a lot of these guys were kind of backups, depth, so they lost a little bit there. But a lot of the starters on defense are still intact, which is good, which is really good considering how good they were last year. That's what I want to see. And so now you get into their draft, and here's where things get interesting because the two biggest needs you could say on the Vikings roster were corner and safety, and they did not go with either in this draft class. So in that case, the corner, it's a little concerning because that was your primary need. And in the first round, they had guys available. You could have drafted Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky, who ended up going a few picks later. Couple picks later, actually, I think. Yeah, a couple picks later. I mean, you could have traded down a couple guys that were still available, like Benjamin Morrison, Will Johnson. So there was some talent available, but they chose to continue building their trenches and building their offensive line and revamping it, getting more physical up front with first-round pick Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. And let me tell you something. I am excited about Donovan Jackson. He was one of my favorite offensive line prospects in the entire draft class. I watched a decent amount of film on what he does. He's big, very athletic, gets to the second level in the run game very well, very set in his pass blocks. He is very, very talented. And he was the guy that when Josh Simmons, who got drafted by the Chiefs a couple picks later, went down, he swung out at left tackle. And guess what? He played pretty good there too. So he's better suited to be a guard in the NFL. But as a swing tackle, if needed, oh man, he could be a really good swing tackle. So I like the upside. I love the talent. He's one of the few guys in this draft class that I'm confident he's not only gonna start right away, but I think he's got the chance to play pretty darn well. I mean, obviously the pieces around him are good, but also his talent is just wow. Like his tape really impressed me, and I'm excited about this pick. And I don't really get excited about offensive linemen like that. So for me to get excited about an offensive lineman, I really, really like Donovan Jackson. So I'm hoping he plays well this year. He's got all the pieces around him to make it happen. We'll have to see what he does. And then in the third round, they drafted Ty Felton, wide receiver out of the University of Maryland. 4.3 speed, deep speed guy, all speed. And this guy, some of the things he did well in college, he was a great tracker of the deep ball. And the reason why he drafted in the third round, because not only does he have a lot of great deep speed, he's good after the catch. Physical too for his size. He's like 6'1", 280 or 183. So a little smaller, but given his size, he'll go out and get the football. He can line up inside and outside. But the thing that really pops off his tape in terms of what made him a third round pick was his route running. While it needs to be developed, there was flashes of it where it looked really good. Really, really good. And so you want to see that develop and play well, and they need a little bit more depth at receiver given they lost a couple pieces in free agency, and Ty Felton's got a lot of talent. Is he going to play a lot? Maybe. I mean, I think he'll play a significant amount of snaps. He'll play a definite role in the offense. So I'm expecting probably 30 catches, 400 yards, couple of touchdowns. Not a whole lot, but for a rookie in that offense with the talent that they have, that's pretty darn good. I mean, it's going to be hard to compete with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and also Jalen Naylor. So it's a good situation to be in. He's not going to have to do a whole lot. He's going to be able to play his best, I think. And that's a guy that a couple years down the line could become a starter for them. And he's got a lot of potential if he can really refine that route running. So exciting pick. I like it. Just have to see because Maryland receivers tend to flop in the NFL, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. But I'm excited for him. And then defensive lineman in the fifth round, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins out of Georgia, another Georgia Bulldog defensive lineman to come out, and as they continue churning that position over there, it's like a factory at the University of Georgia right now on the defensive line going to the NFL. But this guy has got good length, got good speed for a guy that is 275 pounds. He's kind of a tweener. He can play edge. He can also line up on the interior. I think they're going to try him at edge, the Vikings will, but I think with his size, he might have to drop some weight a little bit just so he can be a little bit more athletic for the position, because some of these better offensive tackles will block him out and shut him down because of his size. But for his size, like I said, he's got a good speed, got really good length. He's got some good tools in his bag too. Knows how to knock hands off of offensive tackles and offensive linemen in general. So that's good to see on tape. So there's a lot to like here. In the 5th round is stacked edge class, as we've talked about a lot on this show, and of course the entire NFL landscape has talked about that. So I like it. We'll have to see what he does. He's going to be in the rotation to start. Obviously, you're not going to be starting over Jonathan Grenard or Andrew Van Ginkel or even Dallas Turner. So got to stack players in front of him. So he's going to have to work to earn a spot, but he's going to be in that rotation. And then in the 6th round, well, actually, there's a typo here. I noticed this as I was doing my script or looking back over it. And Kobe King, linebacker, went one pick ahead of Gavin Bartholomew. So let's talk about Kobe King first. Kobe King is interesting because for a linebacker, not only is he a good gap shooter, gets downhill, he's got great speed, great effort, willing tackler, all that stuff you get in a day 3 linebacker. Nice. Athlete. Great athlete. But he has some good things in coverage that you see on tape. And compared to other linebackers in his spot, he has a little bit of it up over them. And considering the Vikings need depth at linebacker, getting a guy like Kobe King, he could develop and become a really good player. If he doesn't become a starter over Ivan Pace or Blake Cashman at any point, he's going to be a really good 3rd linebacker, I think, if he develops. And I like that. I like that a lot for the Vikings. They needed this as depth, and I thought they got really good depth with Kobe King. And then their last pick, Gavin Bartholomew. This guy, looking at his profile, what the heck? Apparently this guy on his profile could run routes pretty well, quick, and the guy's like 250 pounds. He's like 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a massive human being. And so for a tight end to be running apparently how he runs and how he ran in college, okay, this is the type of guy that you take it on day 3. Guys that are raw in technique, but physical talent, goodness. I mean, this is exactly the type of dart throw you want to take. Not that TJ Hawkinson is trying to fight for his job, but this is a guy that in a couple years, if he develops, could be a really good backup tight end, if not taking over for TJ Hawkinson by the time his contract is up. I don't know when his contract is up specifically, so don't at me like I'm not saying it like that, but really high upside, like the pick a lot. So overall, this draft is very promising. Do I like that they didn't draft corner? No. Do you like they didn't draft safety? No. But with what they got, they added depth at positions that they lost. So that is respectable. And a lot of these guys could come along. They have enough upside to like. The only one I'm really excited for, honestly, is Donovan Jackson and a little bit of Ty Felton. These other guys, because the starters above them are really good, mostly, so I can't really see them developing and getting on the field a whole lot. And if anything, they're probably going to be depth at best. Maybe one of them pops off, but it's good. It's okay. It's a responsible draft, I should say. But they really should have added corner, though. That's concerning. But at this point, it is what it is. And so, how do I feel about the Minnesota Vikings joining 2025? And well, simply put, I mean, I have them taking a step backwards. They're still stacked. I'm going to say that. But the reason why I have them taking a step backwards is because they have to roll with JJ McCarthy. And this team is going to ride or die by JJ McCarthy. Let's talk about JJ McCarthy for a second. So, we didn't really get a chance to talk about JJ because he went down in the first preseason game of last year, and it's been all Sam Darnold ever since. So JJ's kind of been like backstage, kind of just chilling, waiting for his time to step in. And now he's here, and now I feel like I can properly talk about JJ McCarthy. And I'm not high on JJ McCarthy. I'm simply not. I thought he was a game manager at best for Michigan, carried by a really strong run game and a really strong defense. Wasn't asked to do a whole lot. And when you got an offense that's explosive as the Vikings with the talent that they have, and you look at some of the opponents that they have to go up against, is he going to be that guy that can elevate the team? I'm not sure. I didn't see that at Michigan. He was a good leader, great, but he was a game manager at Michigan, and he didn't do a whole lot other than just, yeah, he completed a lot of his throws. He was accurate, which is fine and all, but the elite level talent was not there compared to the other quarterback prospects in his draft class last year, like Caleb Williams or Michael Penix or Drake May, or even Jaden Daniels, obviously. So he's the least talented out of all the first-round quarterbacks. Maybe Bo Nix, but that remains to be seen. I'm not high on it. And I think that he's going to have some growing pains. There's going to be some defenses they're going up against that's going to do their best to make him uncomfortable. And I think the Vikings are going to lose more games because of it. Is that a bad thing? No. And also, I will tell you this. The Vikings did the best they could to build around JJ McCarthy. Their offensive line should be better this year, even better than last year. Their weapons are great. So, if anything, I mean, JJ McCarthy has everything around him to do well. So, if he doesn't do well, that's going to be very concerning. But I still expect there to be some growing pains because this is like his rookie year. He didn't play at all last year. He only played a few snaps and then went down in the preseason. So there's going to be some time. There's going to be some times where I think he's going to make some bad decisions. He's going to cost the Vikings a couple games. And with that, I mean, the Vikings are going to take a step backwards. That's not a bad thing. That's not a knock on the Vikings. It's just that I'm not high on JJ McCarthy to begin with. And I think given that he's coming off of an injury, this is his first real action in the NFL, it's probably gonna have some growing pains. Although he's showing some good things at camp, so I'll give you that. And if anything, if the team that they have around him, if he's that guy, you're gonna learn very, very early if he's that guy. So that's my kind of opinion on JJ McCarthy. But let's continue with this roster because the roster, like I said, is still stacked. Their strengths: wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker are all very, very good. Wide receiver doesn't need much introduction other than Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson was a tight end. So there's those two positions right there. Three really, really good. TJ Hawkinson and Jefferson, two of the best at their position. Jordan Addison, first-round pick, still really good. Jalen Naylor is very solid in his own right, very quiet, but very reliable. And then you add in Ty Felton. And then the offensive line, I think the offensive line is going to be pretty darn good this year for the Vikings. They didn't invest into Will Fries and Ryan Kelly and Donovan Jackson for nothing. I think they're going to be a lot more physical up front. And then you add in Christian Darrisaw as one of the best tackles in the NFL. And now you got an offensive line that should be pretty darn good. And then defensive line, same thing. They added Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave on the interior. They still have Harrison Phillips. And then on the edge, Jonathan Grenard, 12-sack guy last year. Angel Van Ginkel, 11 sacks last year. Had a career year. Dallas Turner, going into year 2, very exciting. I really loved Dallas Turner coming out of college last year, and I thought getting him where they picked him up was a steal. So their defensive line is loaded with talent. And then linebacker, is depth still somewhat of an issue? Sure, but the two starting guys, Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman, really like them. And then Kobe King could be a really good third linebacker later on down the line. So, I mean, all these positions are pretty stacked for the Minnesota Vikings. And then on the defense, or on the weakness side of it, the only two ones I have are quarterback and corner. Quarterback, I've already made my statement on JJ McCarthy. Do I think it's going to be a weakness in terms of this position's going to struggle? Or JJ McCarthy's going to struggle? Not really. Like, I'm not saying that from a perspective of, oh, yeah, like this is going to be bad or be an issue. No, it's just that JJ McCarthy is going into his first year starting. He's coming off of an injury. And normally with quarterbacks in this situation, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. There's going to be some struggles. There's going to be some growing pains, as naturally as it is with a quarterback position going into your first year. Even though he's already had a whole year in the system, obviously he wasn't not in the meeting rooms. He wasn't not talking with coaches. So, I mean, he still has a lot of the mental and all that playbook stuff under his belt, which is good. That'll help him. But right now, I just don't see it being a bona fide strength for this team yet until he proves me wrong. And then corner, I am somewhat concerned about. Byron Murphy, no qualms with whatsoever. Isaiah Rodgers, as excited as I am for him to get a new opportunity, can he be a starter? We'll have to see. And then Mekhi Blackman, I think is what his name is. Don't know a whole lot about him, so I'm not going to factor him in. If he's good, then maybe the cornerback situation's a little bit better than I'm thinking. But if he's not as good than what I'm thinking, then maybe they're not going to be as good. So a Vikings fan, let me know what you think about Mekhi Blackman, because I don't know a whole lot about him, if I'm being honest with you. But at least we'll meet in the middle, and I'll say, okay, he's okay. We'll meet in the middle. I think that's a safe guess, if you will. But from what I've heard from other people, corner is a issue on this team. And so that's kind of where my basis is off of in this situation. And so the other one, I wanted to say safety. I think his name was Josh Metellus. Yeah, Josh Metellus. I think he had 100 tackles last year, though. So he's in a new role now starting. He was their third safety behind Cam Bynum. And, of course, Harrison Smith is still there. But I think he'll be okay. He wants a new contract. He's going to go into a contract year. And players in that situation tend to play their best football for obvious reasons. So I have a little bit of faith compared to the cornerback group. So, well, do I think it's a strength? Safety? No. But is it going to be a weakness? No. Well, so, yeah, I'm talking myself into a wall. But that being said, that is kind of how I feel about the Vikings and what they're going to be this year. Let's look at their schedule, because their schedule has got some pretty good things in here. And their first 5 games are not going to be too hard. And as I'm realizing it, let me do something. Because on my script, it is hard for me to see what the schedule looks like in detail, including specific times, primetime games, and whatnot. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to take a second. Forgot to do it before I started. I apologize. It's not going to happen again. Oh, whoopsie. Tablet fell over. We're going to look at their schedule. And I'm going to pull up an image of it on my screen where I can see the whole thing a lot more clearly. And the picture I just pulled up is blurry as crap. Oh, no, it just fixed itself. All right, great. We got a lot to work with now. So like I said, first 5 games are doable, but they're not too hard. They're going to be fun because you got Chicago week 1 in prime time. That's going to be fun. Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy going at it against each other for the first time. These two teams, Chicago's expecting to be better I expect to be better this year. The Minnesota Vikings are trying to continue to be good. It'll be a fun game. And then week 2 against the Falcons, Michael Penix versus JJ McCarthy again. Another 2023 or 2024 quarterback matchup right off the bat. This should be another fun one. I think the offense for Atlanta is going to be fun. And the offense for the Vikings should at least be pretty good under JJ McCarthy. I don't expect it to be bad. And so that should be a fun shootout. And then week 3 against the Bengals, going against Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase. That's going to be absolute cinema. Those two guys are going to play out of their minds. Book it that right there. And then week 4 is, I would say, the first truly definite loss on their schedule. The Steelers defense is still going to be pretty good, and I expect them to make JJ McCarthy uncomfortable. And with what they have on defense, they're going to probably JJ's going to make a few mistakes. They're going to lose a turnover battle, and that's what's going to swing in the Steelers' favor in their favor. And then week 5 against the Browns, that's another definite win for me. Cleveland Browns are going to suck this year. I can't say that enough. I'm going to stop saying that just because I feel like I'm kind of, for Browns fans, I feel like I'm kind of just like, I'm kind of, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm me punching my hand, I'm beating a dead horse at this point. And then you got a week 6 bye, not great. But in these first 5 games, they should be 3-2, 2-3. Like, I don't think they're going to be 4-1, 5-0, or 1-4. Like, 2 to 3 wins is what I expect here from the Minnesota Vikings. It's a solid start. And then you look at the next 5, and oh boy, this is where things get tough. Week 7 at home against Philly. Philly's winning that one. On the road against the Chargers. That's going to be a tough one. That one's a little bit more doable because I think the Chargers defense is not going to be as good as they were, but they're still going to be pretty good. So that's not a gimme. And then the Lions, divisional rival, on the road. I think the Lions win that. And then at home against Baltimore, that's a loss. And then week 11 at home against Chicago. I think they split. I think that maybe Chicago wins week 1 and then Minnesota wins at home. I think the Vikings and the Bears split this year, so you can either put it at week 1 or put it at week 11. Either or doesn't really matter to me. And then you get into Week 12 against the Packers, first matchup there on the road. That's going to be another tough one. I have them losing that game, but it is not unwinnable, of course. And then you look at the last 6 games, and things get a little bit easier. Week 13 against Seattle Seahawks, that's going to be a tough game. They probably lose that just because I think Mike McDonald's defense in Seattle is going to be pretty darn good this year. I have them taking another step forward considering how consistent they were by year's end. And then you look at the Washington Commanders. Obviously, the year that they had, I have them taking a slight step backwards, but they're still going to be good. That's going to be a tough game to beat going up against Jaden Daniels, too. And then week 15 and 16, you got the Cowboys and the Giants. Those 2 games are very much winnable for the Minnesota Vikings. And then you are at home against the Lions. Maybe you can pull that one. I'm not sure. I doubt it. And then the Green Bay Packers at home, you probably win that one to at least close out your home series and close out the year in general. So their schedule is the first half and second half, or first 5 games, last 6 games are manageable, and that middle of the season there is very, very brutal. It's going to be tough. And their most important matchups are the Falcons, the Bengals, obviously because of their offenses, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Those are going to be the most fun games on their schedule. Steelers and Eagles and Seahawks, because those are the 3 of the most toughest defensive lines in all of football in 2025, I think, and on their schedule. So I want to see how JJ McCarthy does in those situations. Do they make him uncomfortable? Does he make mistakes? Or does he step in and, whatchamacallit, just play above the pressure and excel? So we'll have to see. But those are the most toughest games. And right now, with all that being said and done, in 2025, I have the Vikings finishing 4th in the division. That's not going to make a lot of Vikings fans happy, and I'm sorry. I had them finishing 4th last year, and I was wrong about it, so I could very much be wrong again this year. We'll have to see. But with JJ McCarthy, I'm just not high on him. I'm sorry, I'm not. Everything's in place for him to prove me wrong, so we'll see. But right now, I think JJ McCarthy is going to struggle. He's going to have some growing pains, and the Vikings are going to suffer in wins because of it. And, of course, I have them not making the playoffs, but they're still going to have a winning record. My official record prediction for the Minnesota Vikings is right there. Ba-ba-boom. 9-8. So it's going to be a step backwards. But by year's end, we'll see what JJ McCarthy's made out of. Hopefully, he's at least shown some good things and shown some good progression. And so by 2026, okay, the Vikings could actually be back or finally be here now that they have a true franchise quarterback. So we'll have to see all about that. And then let's look at some storylines to conclude, because we've already talked about if JJ's that guy. That's the big one. Offensive line improvement. This one we've talked about a little bit too. I expect the offensive line to be better for the Minnesota Vikings. Is it going to take some time to gel? Sure, because the interior offensive line is all new. So it's going to take some time, but they should be a much better unit by year's end. And then in collusion with that is the run game, because Aaron Jones is 1 year older. When is he going to slow down? Who knows? They brought in Jordan Mason to help take off some of that workload. I expect that to be the case. So Aaron Jones should not get as much carries as he did, but he should, in turn, play a little better because of it. And then Jordan Mason, him taking the load off, should be a nice compliment. So with the better offensive line, we should see the run game get a little bit better too. And considering that JJ McCarthy had a really good run game at Michigan, they need to be able to run the football well if JJ McCarthy is to hit his ceiling and play well instead of playing bad. And then the fourth one, consistency on defense. Last year, the defense was really, really good. Can they keep that up? Can they continue to stuff the run like no other? Can they continue to rush the quarterback like no other? Can they continue to play really well and help circumvent the issues in this secondary? The secondary is still going to have some problems. It's not going to be fantastic. Is it going to be awful? No. But it will still have some of its problems. And if this defensive line can stay consistent, that'll help mitigate those problems. And then, lastly, Brian Flores, because he is in a contract year. He is going to be, if the Vikings defense is great again this year, he's probably going to be a head coach, more than likely again. And along with that, Harrison Smith is going to be a free agent after the year, so we'll have to see what he does. But could be the end of his career. He's been with the Vikings. His entire career has been there forever at this point. So those are two guys on the defensive side that I'm going to be looking for by the year's end, because if they lose Brian Flores to a head coaching job, then we might have to have some interesting conversations about the direction of this defense. So they need to be good this year. Maybe you don't want them to be as good so Brian Flores can stay, but well, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Vikings do in 2025 and how that entire storyline plays out by this time next year. So with that being said, that is going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you've made it this far, please consider hitting the like button and also hitting the subscribe button, as it helps the channel out tremendously. We're trying to grow our community, trying to reach 500 subscribers before the end of the 2025 regular season. And right now, you guys are doing a fantastic job. We're over 170 subscribers now. So by this point, we're going to reach 200 by the season starts, which is double the goal that I had originally. So keep spreading the word out. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think the Vikings, do you think I have them too low? Do you think that JJ McCarthy is going to play better than what I'm expecting? Please, Vikings fans, please let me know what is going on down there. And then lastly, make sure you guys share this video on social media, whether it's on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go follow my accounts over there. And also make sure to follow or go watch any of my other season preview videos. The entire AFC is done. So if you have fans of the AFC, go tell them to go check out those videos. They're great. I love them, and I hope you guys love them too. So with that being said, that is going to do it for me today, guys, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all next time.